lack of self-awareness with this is absolutely 100%
Because
astonishing.
it
Joy?
feels like,
Serious?
I mean,
Joy
I
at a
guess I would
man's
say
execution?
not maybe not joy, but certainly not no, certainly not empathy. Because again,
We're
this is a
watching
man
the
responsible
footage.
for
How can
death.
this make you joyful? This guy's a
So Peter,
husband, he's a
like
father,
billions,
and he's
like
being
and
gunned
so are
down in the middle of Manhattan.
so are
Why
the
does that
tens
make
of
you
thousands of
joyful?
Americans that he murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans.
What the fuck are you laughing all the time? I don't get it. Sorry,
I'm laughing
apologies for my
because
language,
this is
but
That last part is what everybody's talking about. However, I think given what happened over the weekend, I think that there is a term that once again needs to be stated when talking about people like Taylor Lorenz. And that term is someone who has never been held accountable. I mean, seriously, when you look at these serial leftists, you see that they're for the most part overgrown children approaching 40, over the age of 40. You're starting to notice something about these people. You're starting to notice that these are people who've never really and truly been held accountable, which makes you wonder when it all started. My money would be when they were kids. Mom and daddy obviously brought them up wrong. That right there is just me. But given the way that people have reacted to this said incident, that of course the individual who committed the crime has been caught, as you guys will see here.
Man suspected of gunning down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on the streets of Manhattan. Turns out he's 26-year-old Luigi Manjione, originally from Maryland. They found him at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And some sources say he'd been traveling on a Greyhound bus, stopped in for a bite to eat. A worker recognized him and called the cops. Police found 4 fake IDs on him and a gun with a silencer. The gun was apparently a ghost gun, which is basically a homemade gun with 3D printed parts. And he was carrying a document that police have described as a kind of political manifesto. One of the lines from it said, quote, "These parasites had it coming." And we don't know exactly what the rest of the manifesto says, but it was pretty radical, pretty anti-capitalist, anti-establishment. He graduated from an Ivy League school, UPenn. He was interested in leftist and climate change causes, but he also reposted anti-woke and men's rights memes. And he liked social media posts that quoted Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. And I should also mention that the McDonald's worker who recognized him, we don't know who that person is, but they've been getting threats online, people calling them a snitch and a rat. Others have called on Joe Biden to pardon Mangione. And people have been writing passionate love letters to him. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out moving.
And given what we're finding out about what was actually written down in this little manifesto that he had, I don't think it should surprise anybody that people like Taylor Lorenz, people on the far left, are acting the way they are or reacting the way they are about the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson being gunned down in the streets the other night. Now, before we get started, once again, make sure you guys please hit the notifications bell. Please also hit the like button. You guys can follow me on X, also known as Twitter. I call it Twitter most of the time. You can follow me on Facebook, The John Claymore. I'll link a couple of posts in the description box. You guys can follow me there. And you guys can also please hit the like button on the videos when I post it there as well. So that way it'll go up the algorithm. And make sure you guys stick around for the full bit because we obviously got a lot to talk about. So many people are looking at this situation, and the first impression, or the first thing that really went viral, the first question was, who was this person who shot the United Healthcare CEO? Was it government related, or the rats eating themselves? All the normal type of stuff that you would consider was going on, especially given the fact that he was the CEO. But then you look at the situation, and you look at it closer and closer, and you find out that United Healthcare, they deny like 33% of all insurance claims, life insurance claims, medical insurance claims, whatever. But they denied him. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, obviously somebody had a beef with the insurance company. Maybe a family member was sick. Who the hell knows? Of course, we're finding that out through various sources. This guy right here, the Calvin Coolidge Project, is pretty. He's been pretty good with the sources. I'll link the tweet that you guys are seeing in the description box where you guys go check out. I advise you guys go give him a follow. He follows me. The guy's pretty good and he's pretty straight up with all the information. He's actually, you know, like I said, he's not just some random Twitter account that just posts crap. No. He's got links, sources, all that stuff. He brings the receipts. But of course, when a major CEO gets killed, a healthcare insurance CEO gets killed, people automatically start thinking that, okay, something's obviously up with this. And while it's tragic that this man died, it's also tragic that people have certain feelings about certain issues, and I kind of understand where they're coming from with it. Now, I'm not some Barney bro on the topic of healthcare. As a matter of fact, I'm very, very much a noob on the topic of healthcare, and I want to go ahead and say this before we get started. If you have to deal with the insurance companies, you have all my sympathies, okay? You have every one of my sympathies. I've never had to deal with the insurance company ever in my life. Look, I joined the Marines when I was 18 years old. I did my time, did my 2 deployments, got my VA health care. That's what I have. And of course, if you're a veteran, then you probably understand the difficulties that we go through with the VA when it comes to trying to get them to fix something, especially if it's service connected. That is a different conversation altogether, a different topic altogether. But of course, to all the free healthcare people out there, just know right now that a lot of things in life can be fixed with good old-fashioned diet and exercise, but there are some things out there that can't be fixed, and you need good old-fashioned, good old-fashioned, good quality healthcare. So obviously, there's a debate to be had. But still, the reaction to this, where our society is going. Well, I want to say this right now. The main topic of this video is Taylor Lorenz. If you know who Taylor Lorenz is, then you'll know about her crying to the mainstream media after she doxed Chaya Raychek, the girl who runs the Libs of TikTok account. You'll know all about that. You'll know about how many times she's cried wolf. You'll obviously see that she's 40 years old, New Yorker, not making fun of New Yorkers or anything like that there. Childless, cat lady, all that type of stuff there. And of course, she lives on drama. Not exactly a person of renown, not exactly a person who's liked. However, given her recent comments that she gave to TMZ, you'll see here now.
The sentiment, people do want these executives dead. If you have
But you
watched,
said we want them dead, and I guess that's...
I mean, look, I'm going to say I'm with the people in the sense that if you have watched a loved one die because insurance has denied them life-saving essential health care, it is natural to wish that the people who run those systems would suffer the same fate as your loved one. And millions of people across America have had this experience. So yes, am I, you know, when I say, do I wish someone dead, you know, is that advocating for them?
She found herself getting fired from Vox over said comments. Sunny Hostin also had comments similar to what Taylor Lorenz had about Brian Thompson's murder. And of course, Sunny Hostin kept her job. But as we already know, ABC is considering dumping The View because of how hateful it is. Kind of disgusting, actually, when you think about it. But like I said, you know, we got to talk about the reaction and response, so let's get back to it. So, to me, when you see this, you're seeing somebody that really, number one, can't help themselves, but number two, at the exact same time, not only can't help themselves, but also, in a way, you can kind of see that this person is going out of her way to say whatever credibility that she has, as I'll explain over the course of this reaction, this response that we have to her on Piers Morgan. You know, the infamous moment that you guys saw at the very beginning that's going viral where Piers straight up asked her,
What the fuck are you laughing all the time? I don't get it.
So let's get to it. Now, before I get to it, there's one more thing. A lot of this is going back to Occupy Wall Street. Yes, it's going back that far. And I'll briefly explain exactly where the mindset come from, even though obviously someone like, say, Tommy Lahren, who had this discussion, was on the panel, brought the exact same thing. But she's not the only one who brought it up today. Tim Pool had a piece on this where it was brought up once again. There are other people who were around at the time of Occupy Wall Street who brought this up as well, because this is kind of sort of where the mindset, the lack of accountability is. Everybody who was doing Occupy Wall Street, the people who were taking a dump in Zuccotti Park, who were crapping all over cop cars and stuff, they didn't face punishment hard enough, in my opinion. This is where it goes to the whole notion of kids not being held accountable by their parents, so therefore the state's got to hold them accountable, and therefore they really and truly don't learn no lessons, because at the end of the day, they don't regret doing the action. They just simply regret getting caught. And you're going to see some of that here on display. And with that right there out of the way, let's go ahead and get to it.
Americans who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of most vulnerable people. And the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
But why not?
And
Why are you laughing?
I think because because it wouldn't fix the
You seem
system.
to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question
A
funny.
bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all.
I don't find it funny that tens of thousands of Americans die every year and because they are denied life-saving health care from people like the CEO.
Okay, real quick. If you got problems with the insurance company, stuff like that there, trust me, like I said before, you got my sympathies. It's the response that we're talking about, the reaction to this that we're talking about, and how it is that the snarky nature, and you can even see it in Taylor Lorenz's body language or facial expressions that she doesn't regret what she says, or she didn't regret, I'll put it this way here, she doesn't have any regret for having the feelings that she has. She just has regrets for saying what she said publicly, and of course, you can tell she's having a hard time walking it back. Once again, you can obviously tell that her mom and daddy brought her up wrong, but let's get back to it.
Now, I want to fix the system. You're right. We shouldn't be going around shooting each other with vigilante justice. No. I think that it is a good thing that this murder has led to America, or really the media elites and politicians in this country paying attention to this issue for the first time. You mentioned you couldn't understand why somebody would feel this reaction when they watched a CEO die. It's because you have not dealt, it sounds like, with the American healthcare system in the way that millions of other Americans have.
I've dealt with the healthcare system in various ways in America. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but the idea that I would view it as something...
Have you been denied life-saving treatment?
The idea that I would view it as something joyful that a man has been, who's just a healthcare executive, has been executed in the street, I find completely
Something else, too,
bizarre.
that needs to be said, and I want to go ahead and throw this out here, because once again, it goes back to The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. People on the right, people in the center, much more moderate people, have an understanding of people on the left, but people on the left do not have an understanding with people on the right. It's like people on the left can't sympathize or empathize with people who are right of their actual ideology, where it is that people on the right and people in the middle can empathize with people on the left. Like, we feel your pain. We understand where you're coming from. We actually agree it's a problem. It's normally the how to fix it that's the problem. The difference is that the more and more you talk to these people and you look more and more at their worldview, the more and more that you see, and I know I'm saying more and more a lot, the more and more that you see that these are people who, they're really just quite selfish and inconsiderate. I mean, the guy who did the shooting, he's been caught. We're finding out in his manifesto that he was all about the whole climate stuff. Don't get me started on that. I'm just simply saying that these people tend to have a certain type of MO with their worldview. But let's get back to crazy Taylor here.
Going around shooting each other with vigilante justice. No.
Vigilantes? I don't know if she got the news yet or not, but let me roll this for you.
We need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill.
I just figure I would toss that out there, that there are people on the left calling for vigilantes, and they're screaming basically kill Whitey, because obviously a white guy who shouldn't have been in prison or shouldn't have been on trial to begin with. You know, I don't think I need to mention the whole Daniel Penny thing, but of course, you know, I mean, here we are. But let's get back to it.
I think that it is a good thing that this murder has led to America, or really the media elites and politicians in this country paying attention to this issue for the first time. You mentioned you couldn't understand why somebody would feel this reaction when they watched a CEO die. It's because you have not dealt, it sounds like, with the American healthcare system in the way that millions of other Americans have.
I've dealt with the healthcare system in various ways in America. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but the idea that I would view it as something...
Have you been denied life-saving treatment?
The idea that I would view it as something joyful that a man has been, who's just a healthcare executive, has been executed in the street, I find completely bizarre. Let me bring in Tommy here.
Yeah.
Tommy.
But before we get to Tommy, we've got to get our interruption from Taylor. Let's just watch.
I keep being
told... Way,
hang on, Taylor, I'll come back to you.
Okay,
Tommy,
don't say I'm joyful. I said
you said you were feeling joyful.
Yeah, I take that back. Joyful is the wrong word, Piers.
You think?
But I said, as I clarified,
you think?
Yeah.
You think joyful is the wrong word? Yeah.
Sure.
I'd say it is.
Vindicated, celebratory, because again, it feels like justice in this system when somebody responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans suffers the same fate as those tens of thousands of Americans who he murdered or Just no
Tommy,
further.
whether Taylor wants to retract.
And that, my friends, is why it is that you'll never have any real friends. You keep interrupting them. You're obnoxious. You act like you're the princess and that you've got to have all the attention. I mean, like I said before, these are people who can't help themselves but show you who the hell they are. And they're full of hatred. Some of them, of course, are very dishonest. Go back to what I said before. Taylor Lorenz does not regret feeling this way. No, she just regrets the fact that she said what she said because she got fired from her job. She got fired from Vox over the comments. Also, something else, too, go back to when she doxed, she had Shia Raichik doxed. She went out there after she got what was coming to her, when she got doxed, and what did she do? She went over there and screamed and hollered that people on the right were bullying her when she started everything. This is how these people are. They're oftentimes the type of people that are allowed to hit you, or at least in their worldview, they're allowed to hit you, but you're not allowed to hit them back. I mean, it's a very, very odd worldview these people have. I mean, I know some people are going to say this is kind of how communists think, but I think it's really a little bit more effeminate in overall nature. I mean, Taylor Lorenz is obviously a chick, and obviously she's a cat lady, and she's 40 years old, and she's an overgrown child with no children of her own, and also at the same time has probably never been held accountable. But as you guys can see, this right here is what happens when your parents don't raise you right. But let's continue.
In the middle of Manhattan, who happens to be an executive for a healthcare company, and people think this is something that makes them feel joyful.
Yeah, this is still the remnants of the incredibly bratty Occupy Wall Street movement that's morphed into 100 other movements by now, all equally as disgusting. But to celebrate the murder of a husband and a father simply because you disagree with his position at a company, or you disagree with the company, or you disagree with the system of healthcare that we have in the U.S. is quite frankly sick, twisted, and disgusting. Why you'd celebrate anybody's murder, especially just an innocent man who you happen to disagree with, is really shocking to me. But it also just goes to show that the left and many on the left have a tendency to believe that violence like this, political violence, is necessary. It's a means to an end. And if they believe in the end and they believe in the means, it's really sick and
true. But here's what Tommy's not going to tell you. People like Taylor Lorenz, people like the Voshes out there, people like the Destinys, the people who stoke the flames are normally never the ones on the front line. They're normally never the ones who are actually marching. They're normally never the ones who are actually getting their hands dirty. As I have said before on several occasions, if there was an uprising in the country, like a leftist uprising in the nation, it would be in America's major cities, and it would be blue on blue. They'd all be eating one another and fighting one another, because at the end of the day, identity politics is all about each individual identity getting what they believe is theirs, getting more than the other. That's the real truth of the matter. We've been seeing this play out throughout the past 4 years. We saw it play out in 2020. We saw it in 2019. We saw it when Obama was in office. That right there is the truth about identity politics. However, what she's saying about 2008 Occupy Wall Street movement is 100% true, but I'll elaborate a little bit more after you guys see this next part. Because, well, this right here to me is, I think, the encapsulation of the entire thing, that these people don't exactly have, how do I say, true, actual, honest to God feelings, because as I've said before, these aren't people who've been raised right.
long, but to be joyful, or even to even say you're not empathetic about somebody losing their life when they leave behind two young boys, especially during the holiday season, the same day that millions of New Yorkers are celebrating a tree lighting. I mean, that's just too far for me, a bridge too far. The loving and tolerant left is at it again, Piers.
Yeah, Taylor, I don't mean to be rude, but why the fuck are you laughing all the time? I don't get it. Sorry,
I'm
apologies for my
laughing
language,
because
but honestly, I find it unbelievable. What are you laughing at?
No empathy. That's the real reason why. These people can't feel what you feel. This is who these people are. They're drunks. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Taylor Lorenz is obviously upset that all these people die every year because their insurance claims have been denied. I highly doubt she's really and truly pissed off about that. Like I said before, she's pissed off a little bit more about the fact that she said what she said, not the feeling that she has. Like I said, there's actual genuine remorse, and there's, well, I didn't really mean that, and you actually do, in fact, mean that you didn't really mean it because you didn't really mean it. I know it sounds kind of confusing, but this right here out of Taylor Lorenz is just her simply just saying, look, you know, I got fired from my job. I got to find some way to take this back, and obviously she can't do so because she's so damn batshit crazy. It's pretty obvious. People can see it, so that way somebody else will hire me. The reason why, of course, is because nobody would hire Taylor Lorenz. No self-respecting company would hire her. No, but I did say this way was going to come back to good old-fashioned lack of accountability. As I have said before and continue to say over and over and over again, these right here are people who obviously were not raised right. These right here were people whose parents never disciplined them. These right here are people whose parents never spanked them, never even grounded them. It's starting to show. And a great example of this was the Occupy Wall Street movement in 2012. I might have said 2008 by accident earlier, but 2012. A lot of the people who were out there protesting were people my age. You had people like Tim Pool, I want to say Durst the Worst. Several others were out there reporting on it. Even Steve Bannon went to Occupy Wall Street and said there was actually a lot of common ground between left-wing populists and right-wing populists, because there were, in fact, conservative, right-leaning populists out there protesting the fact that these CEOs were getting all this money. Now, we're not paying their fair share in taxes. Now, I have a different set of thoughts on that altogether. I think that if you tax the billionaires at a much, much higher rate, it's going to be less money to pay to the employees and less money to invest. So no, I'm not in favor of wealth taxes or anything like that. Remember very, very much, especially that time, Occupy Wall Street. And I remember thinking to myself, seeing all these people out in the street, not taking showers, not taking baths, of course, just looking very, very nasty, taking a dump on cars, destroying Zuccotti Park. I remember seeing that and thinking to myself, what self-respecting person would allow somebody to completely destroy their city like this? And then I realized, when you actually looked at the actual people at Occupy, you found out that the vast majority of these people were privileged, meaning they come from very, very wealthy homes. And the more and more you look into Taylor Lorenz, you find the exact same thing. The real reason why it is these people are like this is because these people really don't know of anything called accountability. Go back to what I said earlier. Their parents didn't discipline them. They never actually brought them up the right way. They didn't hold them accountable. So therefore, when the law or the media holds them accountable, they act a certain way. They spurg out because they never had any proper home training. Like I said before, and these people don't have much of a conscience, they're not feeling bad because of the feeling that they have. Trust me, Taylor Lorenz very, very much feels like she doesn't really have much emotion for somebody who got killed at Christmas time, which, by the way, the vast majority of these liberals are atheists, and they don't really believe in the spirit of Christmas or Christ Jesus or anything like that at all. So it doesn't surprise me that they're this way, that they're this unempathetic. But still, at the same time, they got no kids. They haven't been held accountable by their own parents. And when they actually do get held accountable, they're not feeling bad about their feelings or what they felt at the time. They're feeling bad more about the fact that they got caught or they lost their job because of something that they said, when the truth be told is they were just simply expressing to you the hate that already exists in their heart. But you guys tell me what you think in the comments section. Make sure you guys please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comments. The video went a little bit longer than I wanted it to go, but make sure you guys do so, and I'll see you guys later.